Welcome to the first ever episode of Burlington Telecom's Ask Us Anything web series, where we discuss questions and topics submitted by customers and Burlington residents. Hopefully through this series we can better connect to our community, answer your burning questions, and provide some creative commentary. You can submit your own questions at btvfiber.com/ask. I am your host, Sean Caio. To my right, we have Nick Martin, Senior Executive of Business Services and Commercial Sales. Nick's also a diehard 49ers fan.
Go Niners.
And Nick's a bit of a I know a guy. If you need a plumber, an electrician, you want to rent a llama, Nick probably knows a guy. Down the line, we have Eric Hill, Service Support Technician. Eric is also our OTT streaming specialist. And Eric's a bit of a brewmaster. I hear you make some tasty brews at home.
Yeah, won a few awards. No big deal.
Nice. So these guys are filled in on what we're going to be doing. We're going to be pulling random questions out of our little container here, and we're just going to talk about them and see what we get. All right, let's get the first one going here. All right, first question. This is perfect. Since you bring UVM basketball games to the computer, why can't you bring the games to the TV? From a anonymous person in Centennial. Eric, you could probably fill us in a little bit better about the kind of complexity of ESPN3 and why I guess someone could or could not at the time, watch the games on their TV.
Yes, so the interesting thing with ESPN3 is it's a station that doesn't technically exist. It's an auxiliary network of ESPN, like ESPN, ESPN2, but ESPN3 is strictly internet-based, so there is no cable channel for it, but it's something you can stream through a connected device, like a Roku or something like that, using an app, or through any number of devices like that using a web browser. But the main issue we were having is with authentication with ESPN3, because even though it's not exactly a cable channel, it's handled as one. And the issue we were having with the vendor that we use to authenticate cable subscriptions wasn't handling ESPN3 the way that it needed to be handled. So eventually we got that mystery solved, and now it's treated more or less like a regular ESPN channel through your streaming device.
So someone with a mobile device, or they have an Apple TV or Roku,
or even just their laptop or an iPad.
Yep. Right. They could download the app, sign in. Or actually, ESPN, you don't need to sign in, correct? Or through the web, they don't need to sign in, but through the app they do. I believe that's the understanding. But so someone could just now that we've addressed that issue, someone could download that app and they can watch. I know the big question is UVM basketball game. Go UVM. Is to be able to watch those games. So someone can absolutely sign into their ESPN account,
sign into ESPN,
sign into their app.
Access to all the ESPN3 content.
Right.
Excellent.
Perfect.
All right, we'll go to the next.
Next question, Nick.
The question is, what is the best breakfast spot in Burlington?
Oh, that's my question.
And this is from Sean. Good question.
Full disclaimer, I did ask everyone, all the guests are going to have a chance to submit a question into the pot just beforehand. I'm fairly new to Burlington. I've been here for about a year, coming up on 2 years, I guess. And my favorite food's breakfast food. So me and my wife ventured around, and I'm curious to hear your guys' opinions on what's your favorite breakfast spot. Eric?
Well, when it comes to breakfast, I usually skip over it. But on that rare occasion where I'm like, I want breakfast, I want to dive head first into it, and it's Greasy Spoon Diner all the way. So Henry's. That's my breakfast spot.
What's your order?
Corned beef hash with poached eggs.
Nice selection.
Nice. Well,
Nick's a seasoned vet in downtown. So.
I too am a big breakfast guy, and I'm the guy that likes a little bit of everything for breakfast. So you stole my thunder a little bit with Henry's, but I also am going to say Henry's for two reasons. One, the amount of food that they give you, and two, the price is actually really, really good as well too. And I actually go with the Hungry Henry. The Hungry Henry gives you basically eggs, bacon, sausage, French toast or pancakes. It's a little bit of everything, sweet, salty. Love it.
Nice. I split my breakfast foods into two worlds, kind of like quick on the go, and then like sit down diner.
That's a good point. I actually like that.
So my like go-to, I'm in a rush. It's 8:30 in the morning. I need something to get me through to lunch. KKD Shiner. That's a hard miss. You can't beat that quick sandwich. I like Handy's. I lived for about a year. I lived right on the corner from Handy's. I can't remember which street exactly. It's not far from Champlain.
It's Maple and Champlain.
Maple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of Handy's. Their Chuck Norris sandwich has become infamous over the past couple months. And
is that the one that was on Man vs. Food?
yeah. I don't know. I like the vibe there. Same thing. Greasy Spoon Diner, and Earl's always behind the grill, whipping everything up.
I did like what you brought up, though, because there is really two types of breakfast. There's
Yeah.
the sit-down, traditional, I have some time breakfast, and then there's the on-the-go.
On-the-go,
yeah. And, I would also agree, too, that the Rise and Shiner is pretty good.
Yeah, it's a hard pass. It's a hard, not to pass that one.
Yeah.
So. All good answers, guys. Oh. All right, let's jump into the next question. We got time for a few more here. What is your favorite thing to binge watch that you don't admit to your friends? This one comes from a coworker, Abby. Anyone want to take this one?
I'll put myself out there.
Guilty binge.
Unfortunately, I don't even know if necessarily that Survivor is a guilty binge because, but I think The Bachelor, somehow The Bachelor and Bachelorette, my wife has me sucked into these, and I usually ended up jumping on about 3 or 4 in and kind of make fun of her halfway through it as I'm making dinner, and then I'll slowly find myself sitting down and asking more questions, and then pretty soon I'm watching until the final rose is given out.
So basically, yeah, you're fiend at the end, and you're like, how did she not win?
I can't believe that happened. Yeah.
Eric?
Well, for me, I've got a couple. The one I'm not too ashamed to admit is the show Gold Rush on the Discovery Channel.
Okay.
Oh,
I started watching that like 5 or 6 years ago, just because it was there, and then I immediately got hooked. But I'm not ashamed to admit that one.
I didn't know that. I'm a big fan of that show as well too.
Oh, I love that show.
Love it.
The one that's a little more out of character, I guess, is Sailor Moon. I was a big fan in high school, and I have portraits in my senior yearbook where I'm dressed up as a Tuxedo Mask. It was club photo day, and it was on Halloween. So there's all these photos of me in this tuxedo and this giant hat. It's hilarious and sad.
There seems to be like a trend now as they're bringing back like old. I'm partial to Voltron on Netflix.
No, Voltron's what started me down that road.
We're pretty much all huge nerds. That's what we're. Even before I met my wife, and she went down the rabbit hole this past year. Grey's Anatomy? I know.
It's okay. That's okay. I said Bachelor and Bachelorette. I don't think there's much.
I probably season 5 or 6 was probably the last thing I watched, but I was
pretty hardcore.
Yeah, I was like in it. I was rooting for McDreamy the whole time, and that was at one point was kind of like no one should probably know I'll actually watch this show. All right.
I love it. What is the best way to check my router if it's going bad? Once in a while, I have a series of what seems like short dropped connections, and this is from Steve in the far north end.
That's going to be an Eric question.
I was going to say, I think that's a me question. The biggest thing to know if it's going bad is just the age of your router, how many years you've had it. Industry standard for router replacement is a cycle of 2 years. So it may seem a bit frequent, but with the increased number of devices that are connected, and with now we're going into the Internet of Things with smart fridges and smart dishwashers and everything wanting a connection to the internet, we're using more and more of what is essentially a very limited airspace. And newer routers using what's called wireless AC technology are better adept at maintaining those connections between multiple devices. So, if you're using a 5-6-year-old router, then what that router is essentially doing is just throwing signal out and then listening for what comes back. Whereas an AC router can send individual connections to each device and maintain them on a one-to-one basis. An older router, you're probably going to start to have problems with.
Now, what I'm somewhat familiar. I know there's, I guess, DOCSIS 3.1. What's kind of like the standard currently that a customer should have? Let's say they have their own. I know that through Burlington Telecom we provide our own routers, to customers who want to get them from us, but they can also use their own. Let's say a customer has their own. What is kind of the standard that they should be looking for to make sure that they have kind of the latest and greatest, so they don't run into
That's a question I get a lot too.
aging issues.
So the big thing is an AC router.
AC router.
All routers they'll say wireless AC, and then they'll have a number at the end of it. What the number indicates is the level of performance. So the higher the number, the higher the performance.
Okay.
But anything like an AC 750 or above is gonna do what you need it to do. And then of course you run into issues of range as well. If you have a big house, you're probably not going to be able to serve it with a single router, and then something like a what's called a mesh Wi-Fi network may be a better solution for you. Probably the number one issue that we face at service support is wireless interference issues.
Right.
Would it be safe to say that too, when a person's looking at purchasing a router, to err on the side of caution and to go for a better quality router up front, and would that essentially allow them to potentially have a longer time before they're having to replace that router?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's always great to buy a little more than you think you need,
Okay.
just so you have that breathing room. So this question is from Gene from the far north end. When will the office in the Ethan Allen Shopping Center open?
That's
Excellent question.
a great question. We're actually filming this episode actually in the new North End location currently. We were actually in here just earlier today. I'm kind of finalizing some things. From what I know, Nick, you're probably a little bit more in tune and kind of timeline. You want to fill the folks in and kind of what you know as a manager and kind of what we're looking at as far as an actual open date or timeline.
I don't know the exact date, but I do know that it should be coming here in the spring, is what I've heard the latest. I know originally the idea was the fall, but I think now we're pretty close to getting things ready and making sure that we have ample coverage.
What I've heard, sometime in March, which is right around the corner. So
Correct.
it'd be great. It's be a fantastic opportunity for us to be a even bigger part of the New North End. So it'll be great.
No, I agree.
Let's get one more in. Why does my set-top box have to reset so often? Jonathan and Five Sisters.
It depends on how long you've had this set top. If it's an older one that's still running on our now essentially outdated Minerva platform, then we're going to want to replace it regardless of whether it's working or not. So it could be that it's starting to have a problem. It could be that the transformer and the power brick's starting to go bad. Our best way to troubleshoot this is to just have you give us a call, and we'll schedule an appointment for someone to go out and take a look at it and see if we can either fix it or replace it.
Personally, I'm sure Nick's somewhat of a similar way. Whenever I have the slightest of internet or cable issues, currently or in the past, I pretty much immediately would call my provider. I know there's nothing more frustrating than having to deal with a set-top box resetting or your internet router, turning on and off. I deal with that currently with my current provider. By all means, give BT a call. I mean, Eric and the other team of service support guys are more than willing to help you troubleshoot or come out and swap boxes if necessary.
Yep, that's what we're there for. We're there to help, and if we don't know there's an issue, then we don't know you need the help. So definitely give us a call.
I think that wraps this episode up, guys. Thanks for being my first guest.
No, that's a great episode. I appreciate it.
Our first episode.
Yeah.
You can still submit questions for future episodes at btvfiber.com/ask. Thanks for watching.
Okay. Take care.